I'm Steve Green, and I've had a Schadenboner that's lasted far longer than 4 hours, but I'm not about to call my doctor. Oh no! You should see this thing. If I weren't trapped in this tiny little rectangle, I swear I'd pull this thing out. And that is my reaction to the chaos of the Democratic Iowa caucus.
Half the membership.
I think I broke Bill.
No, it's okay.
I continue this episode under protest.
Let me get back to the intro. I'm Steve Green with Bill Whittle and Scott Ott, and this is your right angle on the aftermath of the Iowa caucus, the crazy reactions, the conspiracy theories, and all the rest. Scott looked at the nuts and bolts. I'm just here to look at the nuts. All right, Bill, we're going to go to you first, I think. I got a couple of reactions here.
Right.
MSNBC's Richard Stengel, who's one of the big peddlers of the whole Russia meddling thing, he said the two guys happiest with the Iowa results are Donald Trump and his pal Vladimir Putin. Please don't subscribe to conspiracy theories launched by either one of them. Simple human incompetence is almost always the right explanation, and I know that's been your theory all along. But let's now go to
which you replied what?
Well, now let's go to Sean Davis, who said this morning, a party that wasn't completely corrupt would have called every caucus organizer last night, written down the results, added them up, and reported them. A party that wasn't incompetent would have done it by this morning. And yet here we are, Tuesday afternoon, with 0 Democrat votes counted in Iowa. Bill, do you think it's right not to ascribe to malignance that which you can ascribe to Democrats?
Epstein did not commit suicide. I actually kind of like what Steve Green had to say about that on Iowa. He said, fine, your party lacks the competence to run a previously well-established small state caucus. Happy? Yes. Exactly. And don't you find it ironic that a leading Democrat comes out and says, yes, even though Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin, who we know are connected by secret ties of conspiracy, even though it looks like they may have done it, the simple explanation is that they didn't have anything to do with it and that it's just the result of venality and incompetence, to which I would refer him to his own argument stated just in the previous sentence. If you're telling me that while you may think that Donald Trump or Putin are behind this, when in point of fact, it's much more easily explainable that just Democrats just plain screwed up, then I would say to you, wouldn't that argument also apply to the whole Democratic argument that Vladimir Putin is the puppeteer of Donald Trump? Wouldn't it just be easier to explain your argument the way you just explained your argument by saying, no, it's probably just plain incompetence on the part of Democratic operatives rather than this gigantic conspiracy that you're trying to sell us? Or am I maybe just functioning on a level that's, well, just, I don't know, just too many IQ points above the high water mark for this guy. What do you say about that? I think you're absolutely right, Steve. You put it exactly right. You really have, sometimes you have situations why we're also just tickled about this Iowa thing is because it is either rampant corruption or horrific, gross incompetence. It may be both, but it's certainly one of those two. And for the guy to say, look, it's not corruption. No, nobody tinkered with it. We just don't know what the hell we're doing. We just can't count the votes in one of the lowest population states in the union. But don't worry, give us the votes in the entire country and we'll have everything working because we're the party of science and we're the party of technology and we're the party that can't produce an app that can add. You're also the party, I might point out, Mr. Stengel, that can't produce, that took $8 billion to produce a healthcare website, didn't have a shopping cart that functioned. Now, we all know that shopping cart technology is one of those things that has been sent back to us by the Vulcans from the future, and only the smartest of us can possibly incorporate the kind of mathematics necessary to set up a shopping cart on a website. But when you get right down to it, it's Beclown-a-palooza, isn't it? It's Beclown-a-palooza. It's like there is so much here that is so clear. And when you couple it with the Iowa results, and then you couple that with the President's State of the Union address tonight, which I imagine might have a few things to comment upon that. It looks like the president's impeachment tomorrow is going to end not with a bang and not even with a whimper. It's just simply going to be over. And Donald Trump's poll numbers today turn out highest in his presidency, well above Obama's at this point before he was reelected in 2012. So all I have to say is if you're going to have actual votes counted by apps that have not been tested and don't need to be tested because they've been written correctly, probably by the same guys that write the climate models, I'm sure they brought those big brains in there, then what could possibly go wrong? And number two, if you're trying to claim that this is incompetence and not actual corruption, I'm inclined to agree with you. I think democratic incompetence is, in fact, by far the most likely explanation for this, and the country's in the very best of hands.
Indeed, and it will be even after November 3rd. Scott, let me give you a little setup here. CBS News, Catherine Watson, she said on Twitter, the winner of tonight's Iowa caucuses, Trump, who will claim Democrats are in total disarray. Claim. I've never seen such disarray. But Ron Coleman, longtime blogger, lawyer.
Love Ron Coleman.
All the right. I've been reading Ron for about as long as I've been blogging. He's a really good guy. He said the Democrats wouldn't have this problem if they just stand up and say, Bernie Sanders is a damn communist, not a member of our party, and he's not eligible to be our nominee. But then, Ron notes, they lose half their activists and a third of their donors who are also communists. So I have to ask you, is there a chance that this unfolding, developing, day-long goat rodeo, that this is actually better for the Democrats' public image than the actual results out of Iowa that they're taking so long to sort of dribble out and obfuscate and hide?
Well,
Epstein did not commit suicide, I'm telling you.
You know, Occam's razor notwithstanding, I think you have to, anytime you posit a conspiracy theory, you have to ask the famous Latin question, cui bono? And I think Steve Green has already answered that with schaden bono. And I think that what is mystifying—
I apologize for nothing.
Sure, that's what he said.
What should be mystifying to most Democrats is, I thought we had Silicon Valley on our side. Why haven't we been able to come up with an app that works? You know, I think that's what makes people think. That's what gives credence to conspiracy theories, is the idea that you had the whole tech sector on your side of the aisle, but somehow you outsourced this job to a firm called Shadow, funded by a group called Acronym, which, you know, sounds like something from, as Bill has said, sounds like from some sort of a Bond movie. And somehow you couldn't come up with what should be a very rudimentary, you know, how many votes were there? Press the button to send them to us. They could have done this by email. There was really no app required. They could do it by phone. They could literally drive. I mean, Iowa, while a relatively large state, could be, they could transverse that, in 3, 4, 5, 6 hours maximum?
About 3.5, yeah.
So, and I'm just assuming you're driving a tractor. I mean, you can get there. So that's why you get traction for these conspiracy theories, is because it just seems so unbelievably simple to do that they couldn't possibly have screwed it up. But then, you know, I go back to, Steve, what has been your explanation for so much in life and what you've passed down to your children, which is because Democrats.
Yes, because Democrats, indeed. Folks, as I said on the Backstage segment, and if you're not a Bill Whittle member, you don't get to watch Backstage, and shame on you for that. You have to go back to my wedding day and the births of my 2 sons to find me as giddy as I have been since the Democrats imploded in Iowa on Monday night. I'm so happy, and I keep saying that, and I don't care how stupid I sound. But I do have my own conspiracy theory. Before I tell you what it is, let me tell you that I am not a conspiracy theorist. I think that Lee Harvey Oswald, shot John Kennedy, and he was the only guy who shot John Kennedy. We landed on the moon with all those Apollo missions. Chemtrails, sorry, they're BS. So I don't go in for conspiracy theories, but let me present you with just maybe not a conspiracy theory, but sort of a whimsical idea that occurred to me. I don't know if you remember from 2016, but Hillary Clinton's digital maven, a guy named Robbie Mook, was going to use big data to win the election. He had inherited all this digital machinery from the Obama campaign. He had Google on his side. Scott, you mentioned the Silicon Valley angle. And Robbie Mook was going to be the guy who was going to deliver the White House to Hillary Clinton on a digital platform. And of course, it didn't happen. The human element, I think, is always bigger than the digital element, and it just didn't happen. Well, it shocks me to learn that Robbie Mook is apparently still employed in the field of information technology after the biggest fail in maybe American presidential election history. And one of his jobs was working for the shady groups that put this app together that failed so spectacularly in Iowa. So my whimsical idea, my conspiracy theory is just this. What if Hillary Clinton knew she couldn't win the nomination? Because I don't think she could, not after 2016. They'll never forgive her for that. But what if she figured, what if I just blow the whole damn thing up? Maybe they'll come back begging for me to take over and run as their nominee. Well, something to think about. It sure did blow up, though, didn't it? It blew up good. That's your right angle on that, brought to you by the members of BillWhittle.com.
Blew up real good.
I'm Steve Green with Bill Whittle and Scott Ott. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.